If you give me the permission, I can just recite the first piece of poetry that I wrote at the age of 14. So this is called She Was the Last Man Standing. The boys were called from all families, none of them aged more than 21. But one family had to send away a girl. The only reason was they had no son. The daughter was plainly not accepted. They laughed at her and mocked her run. But she paid no heed, and why should she? For in the war, she stood live alone. She was the last man standing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. She was the last man breathing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. They sent some more and then more too to tackle her because she's a girl. You've got to get her and then unfret her and you've got to torture her to every last curl so she fights no more, was what he said. He who himself had never fought a pearl. And all men he sent were useless because she killed them and she was a churl. But she was the last man standing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. She was the last thing breathing, and it doesn't even matter she was not a man. At long last, he just gave up, understood her power, he congratulated her. But suddenly she fell on her knees, held her heart, for an arrow had torn her chest apart. The man turned around, his eyes were wide. Who had the courage to launch an arrow so snide? Putting down his bow and pulling away his visor, an old man walked towards him, said the disguiser. She was the last man standing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. She was the last man breathing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. And I decided to put her away from this world of misery. Where she wasn't respected, men came to fight her, while fools like you stood on horses to look at her. And she would be mocked at for what she had achieved. Let's pray she will be happy in heaven. I'm her father, by the way. And there she laid, a young girl of 17, forever lost, but a smile that was unseen by everyone there, and you and me, covered her face. She had fought so well, and one and all, she knew a story to tell, that she was the last man standing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. She was the last thing breathing. It doesn't even matter she was not a man. So this was the first piece of poetry that I wrote, and I find it a very one-layered kind of thing. It just has one plain meaning: feminism, 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 nothing more. And since then, I think I've evolved a lot, but I'll let somebody else speak before I come to that. Thank you so much.
Ria, have you ever noticed that most of your creations are very women-centric?
Yes, ma'am, I've noticed that. I have noticed that. That is because I really feel strongly about women empowerment, and people find it very annoying, but I just this is where all of my feelings come out in forms of poems and stories and essays.
So what do you want to do? What is your aim, basically?
Ma'am, as soon as I figure what I can do to actually ensure gender equality, as soon as I figure that out, I'm going to play my part. But right now, I just do not know what to do. This is
But
because
you want to do something in this direction.
I really do. Like, I really feel strongly about it. Right now, I'm only doing what I can do, writing and making projects. My political science project focuses on women empowerment. Last year, my history project focused on women empowerment. And this is, I think, the only way that I know how I can help right now.
Okay, so don't worry, the solution will definitely emerge because you know what to do. I mean,
Yes, ma'am.
you don't know the way will soon be there, but you know that you wish to move in this direction. This is something which is going to give you satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Amazing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Beautiful. Absolutely
Thank you so
beautiful.
much, ma'am.
Yes, I mean, such clarity of thought, and you've articulated your thoughts in such beautiful words.
Thank you
And
so
there's
much.
so much force in your poetry, and the force comes not from the words, but from the emotion inside you. It's very beautiful. When the emotion matches the rhythm, matches the words that have formed the emotion, then it's really beautiful poetry.
Thank you
And
so
all
much,
the three
ma'am.
have matched beautifully. Very nice.
Means a lot, ma'am.
I had one more question, Ria. How would you assess your poem, the present poem? I think you wrote this 2 years back, if I'm not
Ma'am, 3
mistaken.
years back.
3 years back.
Yes, ma'am.
How would you assess it now? I mean, if I want you to suppose, do you think you would like to change a little bit of it?
Ma'am,
Edit it?
actually, I was feeling very cringed out when I was reading it today.
Why?
I was like, why would I write this? Because this is just a bunch of rhyming words. This is just a story told in poetic form. That's it. That's all it is. It's not what we call a poem per se.
This is what the journey is all about, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
We are talking about transition. We are talking about your development unless and until you find something that you've written long ago, something amiss out there, you won't realize how much you have changed.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. Like, I mean, I think for a first attempt, it's okay, but this is not something I would write now that I've written so many poems.
But this is known as growing up, Ria. This is how we grow.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Ria, when you say women empowerment, can you define that for me?
First of all, it's a very broad definition, but what I can infer from it, it is that I want to just make women feel that they are not less than men. It's not about fighting and everything. That's just going a little too overboard. But what I feel is that what feminism is for me is just achieving equality, and in not all respects, but in respects where we actually need it. So if there is some sort of like taking an example, if there is some sort of domestic abuse, then women should not feel, like, okay, I have chosen this sort of life and I should not speak up because I'm a woman and everything. So that's what empowerment is for me, just finding your voice, maybe.
Yeah, that's empowerment, not feminism, though.
Yeah, that's true, ma'am. Again, I think that's a topic for
We had
another
a
day.
discussion on that. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
feminism. But okay, good.
Differentiated, Pooja ma'am. Very nice. The difference between empowerment and feminism. Very nice. This should be very clear in the children's psyche, and you are bringing that clarity. Very good.
We've already had a discussion on that. Ma'am. Sanya, Lavanya, they were all there when I elaborated upon it that, there's a very fine line and women today misuse feminism a lot, whereas it talks about equal rights for both men and women. So as much as it ensures that women get empowered, it also ensures that men are not suffering any loss because there are reservations for women in a lot of places. So I think we really need to broaden that line and make people understand, especially women, what I feel. That is why I asked her, what does she imply when she says women empowerment?
Our government has to relook reservation of all forms. Anyway, we won't go into it. Let the children speak. Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Just one thing for Ria. Ria, you said they're just words put together. And just because they don't rhyme doesn't mean they're not poem. They are a poem because they're in free verse. The longest poem in English literature, which is Savitri,
That's Savitri.
written by Sri Aurobindo, is in free verse.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's the longest and most beautiful mantric poetry that's ever been written. So even if it doesn't rhyme, it's in free verse. It was
Ma'am,
very
actually, what I meant to say was that it just has one linear meaning, no, sort
Okay.
of layers
Okay,
to
yeah.
it. That's it. Really.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
Thank
Then
you,
it's
ma'am.
okay. Thank you.
Hello, Shambhavi. Would you like to trace your journey as far as your poetry is concerned?
Of course, yes, ma'am. So
When
I
did you
was,
start writing? Tell us your story.
yes, ma'am. So I actually did not start writing from a very young age. I feel like, I mean, I used to do like, the assigned academic essays and the school writings that we had. But aside from that, I didn't really like pursue creative writing as an activity or just a thing that I would like to do for myself until I was in eighth grade and I joined the creative writing club and I started doing MUNs. So that was when I was first exposed to the creative writing and like writing phenomena whole. So I do have one poem that I would like to read. I wrote it in eighth grade, so it's not that great, uh, but but Archana said that it doesn't matter if it's not great or not,
No,
because it's all about the journey.
it's
So
about journey, right?
okay, so it's called "Oh What a Damage Done," and it's about a place where a war had taken place, and it's observing the after-war situation of that city. Okay. It started with the dropping of bombs and shooting of bullets. The noises could be heard clearer than ever. The faraway launching of an air gun. Oh, what a damage done. It started with the cries of the needy, the pregnant women and young daughters, the whimpering of a newborn son. Oh, what a damage done. It started with the downfall of that perfect abode. The clouds of smoke and rivers of blood. The agony and pain of the people had begun. Oh, what a damage done. It started with the whispering prayers, the dying hope, and exceeding despair. Now all the petty fights and arguments were shunned. Oh, what a damage done. It ended with a horrifying note, the departed souls and family members left alone. Oh, what a damage done. Oh, what a damage done. So it's not this poem. It's not like very long, so it wouldn't really be categorized as spoken word poetry or long poems. So this was the very first poem I wrote. I wrote it in a model UN conference, and I was super proud of myself when I first wrote it. But I think looking back to it now, I would do like to make a few changes. I would like to make it longer, and that's what my journey is about. So the way I have evolved as a writer, I would say, is now I'm more of a non-fiction person, and not really poetry. Poetry is not something that I would voluntarily pursue, but I do like poetry. But the main thing I would like to focus on is my nonfiction writing, and really just writing on social issues, and like Riya Didi said, women empowerment and gender equality. These are some things that I like to focus on, and I think that is one way that I have matured, and like my self-expression has grown in a way from 8th grade to 11th grade now. So I think that would be my journey, yeah, as a writer.
It's always a sense of development. You keep changing, your choices of books keep changing, your preference to which genre you want to
Yes.
shift to
Yes, ma'am.
keeps changing. This is development. This is your journey. This is maturity. Maybe from 5 years from now, maybe you won't be the same person.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll again come back to poetry writing.
Yeah.
This is development, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Would anybody like to shoot a question? Let me not be the only one.
Ma'am,
Girls?
I want to tell something about Shambhavi before I speak.
Yeah.
She has just started, ma'am, I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Shambhavi has started a newsletter, which is Girls Gone Wise. She just started it, and there are a few people present here who are actually a part of it, including me. And I have seen the articles; they're really beautiful, ma'am. She has just started. I just wanted to bring that to her attention because she's doing something really great.
So much, Lavanya. Thank you.
That's what Tiwari ma'am said. That you want to do many things in life. It's not that you will be stuck in one genre only. But you will enjoy this. When we look back at this particular age, when we look back, we feel good about it. So that, okay, I could do that also. So it's not that you will regret. You will be happy that I could try my hands on so many things.
Yes,
And Shambhavi, until and unless you will try, you will not reach anywhere. You have to try. Life is all about this only. You have to, and I'm so happy that you did it. Lavanya, thanks to you. Like, you brought it to her.
Yeah.
It's good. It's expression, Shambhavi.
Yes, ma'am.
If you talk about this also, then this is today you want to express in this manner. It's okay. Tomorrow it depends, like what kind of life you are living, what mood you are in, then you will do accordingly.
Yes, ma'am.
It's good. Expression is the only thing which is important, that you don't need to bottle up things. They're coming out.
Children, you look at your school logo, it uses the word conscious transformation. So your journey is all about this transformation, right? So it's not that it is happening just like that. You are internalizing certain things, and that's how it is happening. So this transformation that is there is something you need to notice, because that is something which is going to, help you to pave the way forward. That there are so many things, which people say. They say, you hear this. It has become sort of fashionable to say, do what you want to do. You are hearing this, all right? Children, it's not always that adults should give you the direction. Fair enough. But then children also should become so conscious of what they want. Only then they can lead themselves into the right direction. Simply saying, let adults not choose our path, we should do what we want to do. But behind it, what we should do, there are so many factors. You have to first bring yourself to that level of perfection, that level of wisdom, that you take the right decision for yourself. So, these little things that you do, the poetry that you write, when you notice certain things, you have some emotions, you articulate them, you put them in words, then you gather your thoughts. When you gather your thoughts, you will be able to give yourself a direction. And then even the adults will not feel that they have to give you a direction. So if you really want to choose your direction, well, this is the way. And then stick to your school's logo, conscious transformation. Whatever you're doing, you're transforming yourself. Why? And notice that change in yourself so that you can go in that direction for which you are meant. Right? This is what that conscious transformation is about. That is why we thought of doing this session.
So just adding to what Pramini ma'am is saying, just a few words.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all about being conscious of our consciousness. So if I'm conscious of my consciousness, my chetna, that which I am basically, and then using everything that I do outside to grow in my consciousness towards that which I know, which my inner being knows is leading me towards perfection. Because the whole game of life is about becoming closer and closer to perfection. So while writing poetry, while writing whatever you're writing, while following your dreams, is everything leading me towards that perfection which will lead me to the highest. So it's basically becoming conscious of our consciousness. That's all.
Ma'am, let's talk to Devanshi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Devanshi, I first met you in 10B when I was teaching you in 10B.
Yes,
and you had joined the creative writing club, and the first time I gave you a certain topic to write on, and within that one period you showed me a very beautiful poem, and I asked you 10 times, did you write it just now? Did you write it just now? I mean, in the sense that within the period of, say, not even 20-25 minutes, she had produced such a beautiful poem. And I started wondering, how can a young girl of 14, 15 have such depth of thought and create a poem, perfection, I don't know whether I should use that word, extremely good poem, excellent poem within that time period. Now that you are writing, can you see that transformation within you? Is there a change? Because
that particular day was a very peaceful and relaxing day. So as soon as you gave me the topic, my mind was pretty empty at that time. So I got very enthusiastic about it. And it was the first time in my life that I had joined a creative writing activity. And so I got very enthusiastic and I just wrote it. So maybe that's why it was a good poem which I wrote at that time. And about transformation, yes, I think with each and every month, with each and every year, we all of us undergo some kind of a transformation. But one question that always arises to my mind, that when you people talk about conscious transformation, is that it is, in my opinion, that conscious transformation always begins unconsciously. Because when I transform, I am so overwhelmed by that transformation that I don't realize the significance of it. But time and again later, I realized that this was something that actually changed everything about my situations, my perception about the world, and it is a very important part of my life. So this question really kind of pokes me a lot. I wonder if someone could answer that before I talk about my journey.
But you put it so beautifully.
Beautifully, yes.
So you put it. That is why it is said that poetry, when you notice something and you take it inwards, only then that overflow happens. So this is what you are saying, that ma'am, I was relaxed at the time, I was too free, so it just happened. Well, it happened because you never realized that you have the capability to keep yourself calm to that extent that you can feel whatever is happening outside. And that is how words poured out. Your emotions.
Ma'am, I guess this also happens when we are in too much of a turmoil. I remember one summer vacation when, I don't know, things were going bad in my life. Maybe I was expecting too much, things like that, teenage problem, whatever. But I was very sad that day, and I was literally crying. And then I got so sad that I eventually wrote out the poem, and all of a sudden I felt really calm, and I realized that whatever I was feeling, it was so trivial. It was so trivial. I shouldn't have paid attention to it. But the poem which came out of that turmoil was excellent. It is one of my best poems of those times. So that is something that really surprised me.
Ma'am,
Which analyzed your sentiments, right?
With your permission, may I say
Yes,
something?
ma'am, we get to experience our shadow side when we write poetry. We come to realize what is trivial and what is really important to us.
So, Devanshi, before you say, I don't know, you have to share something about your journey, and you've asked a very pertinent question. But let's say I'd be humbled if I could really answer what you intend to ask. But before that, before I answer your question, because what you are going to tell me is actually going to help you trace your own answer. You told Tiwari ma'am that you had a very peaceful day, the day you wrote the poetry for her for the first time in 20 minutes. And so you came out with that beautiful piece, as Tiwari ma'am is saying. And you just again mentioned that someday that you were suffering teenage problems, not saying that you're still a teenager, and you realized that you were suffering teenage problems a few years back. But so out of that turmoil, a piece of poetry came out. So, do you think you write better when you face turmoil, or do you think you write better when you have a peaceful state of mind, or is it a mixture of both? And it's just okay. You answer the question first.
That is a very difficult question.
Can anybody else pitch in?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, whatever state of mind, what frame of mind do you answer it?
Please.
Ma'am, I personally believe it's not even peace of mind or a turmoil. I think it's introspection that matters most when we write, because it has to be powerful anyhow. When you introspect, I believe that all your emotions that were maybe subsided, they come to your conscious brain, and that's when you believe that you can pen them down. And the way Devanshi writes, I think I've read one of her creations and chronicles as well. I think so, I'm not sure. But I believe that her style depends on what I think all of us, on that contrary, our writing depends on what we have introspected. That if something has happened with me in a particular event, the way I introspected, if I introspected in a way that it was negative to me or it was positive, it will reflect in my poetry, and maybe that's how it affects to how I write.
Devanshi, do you agree with her?
Partially.
Okay, what part do you not agree with her?
Sometimes it just happens that you don't introspect, but you want to get a pen in your hand and you just want to write something. And
that's
when
what
you
I'm saying.
writing,
that unconscious introspection and conscious introspection, there are two different types of it.
Do you think you write because there is a free flow of thoughts? Maybe something that you have left unsaid.
Sometimes, yes, sometimes it is a free flow of thoughts, and sometimes it's not a free flow of thoughts. Okay. Sometimes maybe I'm thinking about something and I write it and I get more clarity. Okay, so there is one quote which my brother told me one day about that clarity of thought comes with writing, and writing does not come with clarity of thought.
True, very true, very
true. With poetry, sometimes it happens that when we are writing, we all of a sudden we discover something during that time.
You start understanding yourself. Before you start writing, you don't know. It's an emotion, child, and that emotion becomes so powerful that it compels you to write.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you start writing, then your thoughts get some direction. And then at times you start enjoying it. At times you are peaceful. Yes, so it's all about your emotion and how powerful it is, Devanshi, at that particular time. And you have answered your question on your own when you were asking a question.
Yes, I was just going to say that my purpose of asking you that, and when you say whatever you just said, so when you talk about conscious transformation, Devanshi, there are people. So when we say this is something very serious, this is something very, again, very pertinent to the times. When people talk about conscious transformation, it is actually, so someone who has clarity of thought, someone who is capable of introspection, someone who is capable of understanding their emotions, is the person who can
मच्छर और हो
actually
जाएंगे
make an attempt, whether willingly or unwillingly, to transform themselves. Whether you say it's a conscious transformation or it is an unconscious transformation, it stems from your consciousness. It stems because you have the ability to understand, to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. And it is primarily when you see something that you may consider wrong happening around you, it is primarily when you see something that is right happening around you, that you channel those feelings, that you channel those emotions, you channel that, the vibe around yourself, and you're able to put it into thoughts, you're able to put it into words. Even if you're not writing a piece of poetry, you need to have that basic understanding of the conscience to have a transformation, a conscious transformation of the conscience. For someone who does not have a conscience, will never be able to consciously transform themselves, because for them, the world is just, it's a playground. You come, you play, you go. It's something something as simple as that. I live my life the way I want to. I don't care about anything right or wrong, any rules that may have been set up. No emotions. If I hurt somebody, it's okay. If I'm hurt, I'm not really hurt, because I don't have that conscience in me to consciously transform myself. I hope that's helped.
Would
Yes, ma'am,
anybody
that's
like to
a
pitch
very
in?
helpful explanation. Thank you so much for that.
Manya, what do you think about it? You've been silently hearing everything.
Ma'am,
I'm sure you want.
I'm just soaking it all in because I agree with
Exactly.
like almost everything that is being said. Like it's just hitting home. And I feel like conscience is what drives you through life. If there's no conscience, you don't get to call yourself human, because conscience is what makes you human, and that's what like takes you through life, and that's what decides your action.
Manya, what you said just now regarding conscience. So, Pramni ma'am, I would like one day to have a discussion with the same students regarding the difference between conscience and consciousness. If Pooja ma'am, Archana ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
if you all would like to discuss the
Yes, ma'am.
difference
Surely.
between the difference between conscience and consciousness.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
do tell the children to think about it. If they want to write a piece, write a piece. But there's a nice difference between conscience and consciousness. A good difference. It's not a thin line, it's a good difference between the two. So let them think about it. Why don't we have a discussion someday on this?
Ma'am, let them do their homework before we have this discussion.
Sure.
Self-help is the best help, I feel.
I totally agree. Totally.
Yes, ma'am. Shushmita,
Yeah.
can you talk about your journey child?
Mom, actually, I was never a poet. I was more of a story person. I used to read stories and I was always a story person. Like all my school essays, even in the exams, I always wrote stories. So that was when P.D. Chauhan suggested me that why don't you try writing poems? That time I was like, I don't think I write good poems. Maybe that is because people write their poems about emotions, but I don't really write them about emotions. I write about anything I think about, and I feel a bit embarrassed when I write about my emotions. I think Zile was the first time when I wrote about my emotions. I wrote about loneliness poem, and that so I get embarrassed when that is why I do not show people my poem. So when I chose creative writing activity in class 9, and I met you. You gave me the talk. You actually told us about the poem "If" by Roald Dahl, and that got me thinking that I should write something about it. So, and I had a friend Shreya. She used to write very beautiful poems. Animisha, and so they used to write very beautiful poems. So I was like, I should try writing poems. So that was when I first thought that I'll write. It actually took me a week because I wrote the first two paras and then I got stumped. I could not think about anything. I asked actually many of my friends that what do you want to be? Something like that. But actually, it was in a history class, which I mean, which gave me the direction of the poem, and that is why two paras are a bit different, and two paras are on a bit different thought in my poem. So, if you don't mind, I would like to read that.
How many of you all feel that, okay, let me write a poem, and you take up a pen and you start writing? How do you all decide when to write? I mean, is it impulsive flow, or is it something that you do consciously? Okay, I'm going to write a poem, and then you start. That you do, of course, in creative writing class, because you have no choice. But at home, when do you start?
Actually, the case with me is I write rhyming poems. So if I'm thinking something and I think, oh, it is rhyming, that is when I think I should write the poem about it. And it is actually in whichever copy I can think about, I write that in that.
Right. How we initiate students into it, rhyming and things like that. You know, the very challenge of rhyming one line to the other gives a thrill to a child, right?
Yes,
so that's actually the beginning of poetry writing. When we get into the technicalities of poetry writing.
Ma'am, can I add something to that?
Yeah, please do.
So this is a very weird thing. Most of my great thoughts come to me when I'm in the shower. And it's like, okay, so this is a nice couplet. Maybe I should use this for a poem. And then throughout the entire course of when I'm getting ready and for school, I write a whole poem. But then by the time I'm in school, I forget everything. So I have to just recall everything. And then it's a very weird process, but this is just how most of my poems are made.
Yeah, let me add to that. You're not alone.
Yes, that's not weird at all. It happens to many people.
Sushmita, before you start, just a word of advice: never be scared, never be afraid of sharing your emotions.
Yes,
emotions make you who you are, and for anybody who cannot accept you for the emotional person that you may be, they do not deserve to be in your life. So it's a good filter, that you have. It's like Manya said, it's your emotions that make you human. So if you remove that humane aspect from you, you're basically going to be nothing but a stone cold rock. So never be ashamed, even if it filters out 9 out of your 10 friends from your life, you are going to be left with that one that really matters.
And it is, I'll add something to it, Pooja ma'am. It's not about friends. You will always have people to walk with you. You know, when you write something, you get into your emotions, and gradually you get to refine your emotions. You learn how to handle them. So when we talk of education, what is education about? Education is not about stopping your tears or thinking that I can't cry in public. That's okay. That's the way I am, but there is a reason. It's quite possible that I'm very passionate about something that I do. By any means, if you're very passionate about something that you do, is that wrong? Being passionate about what you're doing, is that right or wrong? Tell me.
It is right.
It is right. So if you're passionate about doing something, that automatically finds place in your work. Is that not your driving force?
It is.
It is. Will that passion take you to perfection in what you're doing or not?
It will.
It will. Now, if passionate about something, you do something, you're emotional about it, and then if you reach that aim that you've set for yourself, then at that point, whether you are in public or you are with yourself, if you shed a few tears, even amongst people, is that wrong?
It is not wrong. Actually,
yeah, is it a display of emotions? It is not a display of emotion. It is a display of your being. It is what you are. It is what you actually are. And what we are doing today is what you people write It is basically you, when you trace your journey, you'll realize that gradually your emotions and you as a human being, you're refining yourself when you write. So how will you refine yourself if you do not give vent to your emotions in your writing? When one of you said, see, all of us have our interpretations of all this. There is no one right answer, no one wrong answer. But the way I interpret, somebody said that, ma'am, I wrote at the age of 3, but I always used to write, tear it off, throw it. But you just go back, take yourself to that time, you'll probably realize you wrote either in happiness or in anger, and after a moment, you gave vent to that feeling. And then you just left it behind. So that is how you develop that control over yourself. So somewhere your writing, your poetry refines you as a human being, helps you to develop that inner calm also somewhere. And that's how subconsciously you are transforming yourself. And when you introspect, you will realize that you have reached a stage where it may be subconscious, but when you realize it, then you start working upon yourself. That is when it becomes conscious transformation. Okay, but we all can interpret it our way. Yes.
Advika, can you share your story? Your journey as a poet?
Good evening, teachers.
Good evening.
So I actually started writing in class 8 in the end, because I was not able to spend lunchtime with my friend because my duty was in a place that she was not able to come. So I was sad about it. And one thing more, yes, I don't write in English, I write in Hindi.
Yes. Go ahead, no problem.
Yes.
It's okay. Creative writing is creative writing.
Yes,
there are many children here I can see who write so well in Hindi also. Most of them. So because they are poet at heart, no? So language is no barrier.
Absolutely.
And as ma'am asked, what is the first thing or what's the reason that you start writing at home? So for me, it is actually whenever I heard a new Urdu word, I just love this language. And whenever I heard a new Urdu word, for example, once my mother was scolding me and she said, can I quote her please?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
She said, Mustaqil tumse keh rahe hain ki kamra saaf kar lo. So I was so spellbound on listening that was Mustaqil that rather than cleaning my room, I was so spellbound. I was like, what does that mean? This is so good. And she said that it means continuously. And then I'm from that.
Saaf hua ki nahi?
No, ma'am, of course. It happened. Otherwise, फिर वो मुस्तकिल मुझे मारती.
Thank you, Advika.
Yes, I did clean
learned
the
a new Hindi word today. Thank you so much. I hope I remember it for some time.
Thank you, ma'am. And ma'am, it is because of my mother that I love writing so much, because she's like, she always uses Urdu words. And I'm like, this language is so beautiful because it is not very rude. And even if you're scolding someone in Urdu, it seems so sweet. Like if you say someone, "Aapne ye kya himakat ki hai?" It's not like you're being so rude. It's like, wow. So this language, and yes, as I said, I started writing because I was missing my friend during lunchtime. So I wrote this poem. It's called Ye Dosti. Can I please recite it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
हिमालय से ऊंची ये दोस्ती, समंदर से गहरी ये दोस्ती, अजंता से खूबसूरत ये दोस्ती, वक्त से कीमती ये दोस्ती, वीणा से सुरीली ये दोस्ती, चाशनी से मीठी ये दोस्ती, मलमल सी रेशमी ये दोस्ती, परियों की कहानी सी ये दोस्ती, जमीन का खजाना ये दोस्ती, तारों का टिमटिमाना ये दोस्ती, नदियों से पाक ये दोस्ती, सूरज से रोशन ये दोस्ती, ऐसी ही रहे ये दोस्ती, कभी खत्म ना होने पाई ये दोस्ती. शुक्रिया.
Okay.
What a poem.
And that's it. And there's also a very good motivation and support of Devanshi, who helped me a lot in writing. She was the one who used to critique my poem, saying like, this word is in line, or this word is rhyming, or this is good. You should narrate more.
Okay.
Ma'am, she writes really good and she's very expressive of her poetry. That's the best thing about her.
So that is why
Very
she
expressive.
notices the words. She notices the words Mustaqil and Himakat. So when your mother tells all this, then your anger vanishes or not?
Ma'am, it's not there.
It's not. That's what I'm saying.
Like
This is the
once she
power
made
of
a
words.
once
Yes,
she made a
children.
joke. Once she made a joke, and that was also in Urdu. I was not laughing. I was like,
ये क्या बोला?
exactly, ये क्या बोला?
So, children, this is the kind of language you have to learn. That is the power of words. That is why, I'm so happy listening to you people. I've always felt that words have the power to melt your anger. Words have the power to stress, to stir anyone, and they can bring about a change in you. So you have to incorporate all these words, in your when in your speech, in your thought, everywhere it is very essential. And therein comes your creative writing, because when you become creative writers, you will surely find words to express yourself.
All poets here, I'd like to ask something. Tiwari ma'am, one educational question, please. All poets here.
Okay.
So she used a very, very, very starkly prominent poetic device all throughout that Hindi poem of hers. I'll define it in a broad category for you, and that was repetition. Can you tell me the two kinds of repetitions she used in her poetry?
Bolo.
All poets here. Let's see how much you'll really pay attention to our
Mustaqil, tell me.
Mustaqil.
नहीं बताया तो हिमाकत होगी.
I've given you a broad category. It's repetition. Don't go on Google, all right? You just
Ye
have to
dosti.
see the...
Ye dosti.
And they said Merchant of Venice, Act 5.
And simile, see, aisi, dosti.
More than that, ma'am. Repetition. So, have we forgotten Anaphoras?
Advika, I taught you. You dare not forget Act 5.
They've all forgotten Anaphoras and Epiphoras. We've taught them all throughout, the Shakespearean plays and all throughout poetry.
I'm in that ring episode. This ring.
Okay, forget that. Now tell me the
Anaphora and Epiphora for us.
So basically,
Yes.
basically, it is about the beauty of emotions, beauty of thoughts, and we are not looking at poetic devices.
Ma'am, please let this be an educational venture.
Let the discussion not drift to that. We'll come to it at the end. So, ma'am, now who Advika, you wish to speak more about it? It was a pleasure.
Now, Advika will, in Urdu, she's going to introduce the next poet. Advika, go on.
थैंक यू मैम. शायरों की इस महफिल में हम इस्तेमाल करना चाहते हैं श्रेया सिंह का, जिनको काफी जल्दी है कि वो अपने दूसरे काम में थोड़ा मशरूफ हो सके. और तो फिर हम इस्तकबाल करते हैं. श्रेया वर्मा, आप आगाज करें, हम सुनने के लिए तैयार हैं.
Thank you so much. Couldn't have got better introduction. Thank you. So I started writing from class 7, and to be honest, nobody inspired me to write. It was a mutual decision of taking creative writing activity and just writing. When I stepped in, the first day of creative writing, State ma'am was there. She was sitting, and probably Archana ma'am was also supposed to be there, but she wasn't, and State ma'am was sitting there. And she gave us this one topic. I don't remember the topic, and I was supposed to write. So the first day was very difficult. It was so difficult that I couldn't think of a single word how I would put it into a poetry or a story. But gradually, State ma'am started giving us she taught us to write these tongue twisters, these short stories, and these funny one-liners and stuff. And it seemed like a new, fascinating world, and it was completely different from what I have experienced before. And I was like, oh my God, to be honest, I am a poetry person. I don't write stories, and my poetry is based on what emotions I feel at that very point of time. If I'm sad, I'll rather cite poetry. If I'm happy, I'll just probably go on singing about my happiness. So this is what kind of a person I am. And earlier we were talking about women empowerment and the newsletter Shambhavi has started and all of this. I am a person, yes, I believe in all of this, but I think we as women, as girls, as females, are already empowered. We don't need empowerment. All we need is people to understand us, people to understand us the way we are, and give us the rights that we actually deserve. And that's what is my perspective of writing. Writing for me isn't just an activity, it is a therapy. It's my way of expressing every emotion I feel. So, thank you.
It's a therapy, you said.
It's a therapy for me. It pulls me out of my monotonous state, and I'm very glad that I can do this.
Beautifully expressed. Beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shreya. I relate with that on a very personal level because even when I write, it's catharsis for me.
Right.
It's a lot of venting of emotions.
This is how poetry began, Pooja ma'am. If we go to, like Smriti Rekha ma'am is there, वियोगी होगा पहला कवि आज से निकला होगा गान. This is how it
निकल कर आंखों से चुपचाप वही होगी कविता अनजान.
नहीं, वो आपसे ज्यादा अच्छा लगता है.
Sanvi? Yes,
Good evening,
child.
teachers.
Your turn.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, for me, I did not necessarily at any time start writing poetry. I kind of got linked to poetry through elocutions in class 2, and class 1 and class 2. When I was supposed to recite a poem, Ferris Wheel, in class 2, and I could not attend the elocution because I had to take a leave on that day for some reason. So that was when I actually started making a link with poetry in the first place. Because it was like I realized that I really liked being able to express somebody else's words. And I really like the idea of being able to express my own words in the same way too. So the first poem I wrote had been on bees and flowers, and it had been written somewhere in class 2 or class 3. And sadly, I did not have the poem. And that was, I guess, back in Jaipuria itself. But after that, when I wrote the next poem, it had stemmed from a quote that I had written for a card that had to be written for a teacher who we were bidding farewell to. So it was inspired by what was drawn in the card by somebody else. So it was a butterfly that had been drawn sitting on a flower. So from that, I had actually written the first quote that I wrote, which was, if you don't mind me reading out, I'd like to read the quote out. It was something along the lines of, you gave us wings to fly like butterflies and reach the lovely flowers of success. So from that, I had kind of extended it into a poem about being expressing thanks to a teacher who had done so much for us. And gradually through that, I started writing poetry. And it did not necessarily become a therapy for me, but it did become an escape. Because whenever I felt any strong surge of emotions, or I did not feel like necessarily talking to people, which is something I often like doing. So it's kind of very out of character for me to not be speaking. So poetry became the thing that I started speaking to. I started speaking to pages instead of people at times when I could not believe that I could not exactly speak to people. So I started expressing everything I liked into poetry. And not necessarily poetry, just words. At times it would be one line, maybe a whole page, maybe a random rant at times, anything and everything. Maybe it was just some phrase that I found really beautiful, a set of words, a couple or more things that sounded beautiful together. So it just gradually became something I really started enjoying. And then I had poetry written on random pages, like in a school notebook, scribbled at the bottom of a page, in a textbook, scribbled somewhere else. Maybe often written on my hand just so that I remember jotting it down in a diary as soon as I get hold of one. And then I made a Google document. And I was like, whenever I have my phone and I don't have a pen or paper, I'm writing it down. Maybe I started making a voice memo, saving something that I had just clicked in my mind. And that's how I just started using words as a friends, maybe. So that's what poetry has been to me. It's been an escape entirely.
I'm enjoying what the children are saying. It is so beautiful and so deep. And the conversation is so rich. It doesn't need any more embellishment. Very beautiful. And the questions that the teachers are asking, I mean, this is education. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
But you write a lot of poetry, ma'am. and
Yes.
you know a lot about it. This is something I'm aware of. So I'm not saying they're wrong. They are finding their direction. But if you say something about this, the way Sanvi, she writes beautifully. She's the one, if you remember, she's the one who wrote the play, Riya and Sanvi on transformation.
Right. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from those
Okay.
scribblings, you see where you've taken yourself.
Yes. Well, regarding my own poetry, I mean, I don't think this is the platform where I should be speaking, but yeah, I have. For me, poetry is something that, as one of the students said, that it just flows, and she says it flows when she's in the shower. Another student said that um, when she's in a very sad mood, poetry flows, or if she's very relaxed, the poetry flows. So for me, it's really again the same thing. Either I'm in a very relaxed, I mean, I completely reverberate what she's saying. Either I'm in a very relaxed mood and the words are just flowing and I can't stop. It's just flowing. They need to be penned down instantly. There's a time when I was in the park and there was a man who used to come with his dog and park mein allowed nahi tha. And I used to really, and some words just flew out of me, and I had to quickly record it on my mobile because by the time, within 10 minutes, they disappear as well. So they need to be held on to. And then it came out as a good poem. And yeah, sad moments also bring out very nice poetry sometimes.
So ma'am, is that like the way you're saying they just flow? I think it happens probably with all of us. So is that doing something consciously? What would we
Uh,
call that?
I don't think I have, I mean, I'm sure the students are writing consciously as well, but I don't remember ever starting a poem consciously. It begins unconsciously and then you get into it consciously. And then, of course, you correct. I have a habit of, which is a silly habit because I'll go on and on and on, correcting and recorrecting and recorrecting. But that's my habit. But none of my poems have started consciously. They start unconsciously. Some words flow, and then I just get into it, and then I don't know how it happens for others.
So
Yeah,
it is like
and I also write in Hindi only.
yeah,
So,
but you write beautifully. And
Ma'am,
today,
in
before we end the session, one poetry we have to hear from you. One poem at least. My special request.
oh,
These children have not heard this. This is another group.
okay, okay,
So, ma'am,
okay,
then, because Devanshi's question is still there. So it is
okay.
like beginning a poetry is some subconscious, the way all of us are thinking. And then maybe you develop it consciously. And while you develop, you start thinking more about yourself. And there comes in the transformation gradually. Can we say that?
Yeah,
ma'am,
transformation is in the poem. And maybe there's some transformation that happens within yourself as well. I'm not sure of that. Sometimes not.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And
Thank you.
yes, Tiwari ma'am. So Anjali ma'am, would you like to recite any of your poems right now?
Not before the students. The students are always first. I can't jump in right now. No.
Okay. But at the end, you can flick your
Okay.
pages, the pages and pages that you've
No, I haven't written so many. I've hardly. I look through my poems
Yes.
and find some.
when I use the words powerful overflow of feelings, that was incomplete definition of poetry by Wordsworth. He also wrote after that, and I don't remember the exact words, but it is recalled in tranquility. We keep absorbing whatever is in the external world around us. Subconsciously, unconsciously, we keep absorbing everything. And when then the sentiments, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts become so powerful that we recall them in tranquility at peaceful times. So when ma'am was talking about you people, somebody said thinking about something during the in a shower or at other times, but when you start writing, the moment has to be a tranquil one. You have to absorb and then the sentiment becomes so powerful that it flows out through your pen, through your ink. So that is what I wanted to add on.
Ma'am Wordsworth said this, that poetry is a spontaneous overflow of emotions. On the other hand, T.S. Eliot said that poetry is an escape from emotions. So I think
definitions of poetry, there are
manifold.
innumerable interpretations of what is poetry. That's we'll have some other time, we'll have this discussion. Every poet has his or her definition of poetry.
True. So, ma'am,
We're
for
all
me,
London
I think
poets, the
it's
way
just
you have your definitions.
right.
Every poet has their the way you all write in different frames of mind.
Yeah.
Every poet has done that. So,
But for me, the
It's
thing is, I cannot just conform to a single definition. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm feeling something, I have to write. But then sometimes it's like, okay, so when we were writing for Crescendo, I got to know that I have to write a poem, and so I just wrote a poem. I did not feel anything about it. I had not felt anything like that, and it was not anything related to my emotions. I just collected words and I wrote about them. Same happened with my very first poem and many other poems. So I don't know if I fully agree with Wordsworth's definition.
Good, you should not agree always to whatever others say. Everybody has his or her own take on it. And I'm happy you don't like Wordsworth's interpretation. Ria should have Ria's interpretation of poetry, isn't it?
I really don't know if I'm capable.
Why everybody, all of us are capable enough. Who says we are not capable? We are unique and we are powerful enough in our own ways. We are the best. Getting better. If best means overconfidence, and if I use the word best, that I cannot become better. But yes, we are unique in our own ways, isn't it?
Ma'am?
Mangalya, would you like? Yes, Devanshi. Mangalya,
Ma'am, I agree a lot with Riya Devi, and I think she's very right. Every poet thinks he or she is smart enough to conjure up a definition of poem, but that's not the way. Because poetry is what you are. You can only write what you are. You cannot write what another person likes to write. You cannot write in another style. You can only reflect your own self in your art. And every artist.
Definitely. There's no question about that. Mangalya, would you like to pitch in?
Yes, ma'am, of course. Good evening, teachers.
Good evening.
My journey with poetry has really been one about rediscovery in a way, because one of the earliest things I remember was just sitting down and writing a poem about I don't even remember about what, and then I just kind of stopped, and I kind of rediscovered it when I was in class ninth, because that was a time that was I was going. I don't know. It was sort of one of really important periods of my life. So I think that was when I uh, rediscovered my love for writing and poetry. Honestly, I don't really regard myself as a poet. I don't know if I ever will. But what I really aim to do with it is I really just want to tell my story in the form of poetry. And that is something I want to achieve. And one more thing I would just like to thank the English department and the editorial board for is thank you everybody for putting out the Chronicle, because it was something that one of the most important influences. Just seeing everybody in the school, all their poems and all their write-ups. So I still remember something our seniors wrote, like Fiza Didi and Tathagat Bhai, and all their stories. So that was really influential for me. And as for the journey, I still think I'm developing, and yeah, I really hope to get better.
anything that you've written and you would like to share it?
Yes, ma'am, I wrote this poem for Crescendo recently. I didn't really give it a title, but the sky will be streaked with vermilion in your town where shallow glass buildings replace happy homes. The pastel walls of your childhood room, adorned with memories in yellow and blue, will soon be covered in cracks and trimmed with cobwebs. But still, you believe in your soft rebellion that something will stay the same forevermore. In time, you leave behind the coziest homes and the warmest hearts and the safest havens and people you never thought you'll find. And in the early morning soft sounds, when your reflection has changed beyond recognition, you'll understand nothing will stay the same forevermore. From reading about ruins of everlasting empires to seeing the slow decay of war torn countries and brothers in arms standing across the battlefield, you'll see people kneeling on the streets trying to fix the broken wheel. Do you still believe in your naivety that something will stay the same? You'll see why it could never be prevented, why it swept up even the greatest of men in its current. You'll see that change is here to stay, and on quiet nights in vermilion skies, will you finally let go of the last of your rebellion and embrace its permanence, what many before you tried to outrun? You war against changes into what we want. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. This is about parivartan, no? Change.
This is about change, yes.
This is about change. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
And you say that I don't know, I have to mature, I have to grow.
Yeah.
Well, you've written
Ma'am,
very
I really concentrated on poems for a while. I just kept poetry a part of something that this is not something I can do for a while. So it's taken me some time to find my style.
Don't leave it. Don't leave it. You'll need it. It's a beautiful outlet. Beautiful outlet. Yeah.
Ultimately, you have found yourself, right, Mangalya?
Yes, ma'am. I guess now I can say that.
Yeah. Pramita, good evening. You've been waiting patiently for a long, long time, child.
Good evening, ma'am. So, when I talk about my journey as a writer and how I've evolved, I think for me it began in grade 8th. So I'd like to point this out that I don't consider myself to be a natural writer, and writing is not something which comes very naturally to me, and I have to put in a lot of efforts to come up with a good piece. So in grade 8th, it was I think Shambhavi and we attended, I think, our first MUNs ever together. I was in our committee. I was in company of such amazing writers, and I was so inspired by that. I read this piece in the final press release, and it was really inspiring. So I thought that is something that I'd like to do, and that it is something that I'd like to be. So, and also at the same time, I remember that the spoken word poetry club was started in our school, and I didn't participate in it, but I was exposed to the idea of and what spoken word poetry is. So I went on the internet and I looked up what spoken word poetry is, and I remember the first ever spoken word poetry that I heard was by Sarah Kay. It's an amazing piece. It's called If I Should Have a Daughter, and I don't know if this happens with everyone, and but I feel so inspired after listening to a good poem or after reading a good poem. I just want to write then. I think that is when it happened to me, and that I listened to this poem by her, and I instantly had so many thoughts going through my head, and I was like, I should write them down. And so that is, I remember the first time that I ever wrote a poem. But again, I'd say that I am not very good at poetry. Poetry is not my cup of tea. I like to think that I generally stick to story writing. And now looking back in introspect, I think some of my pieces that if I read some of my pieces, I find is that what I used to write before, my thoughts were just so scattered. I mean, I was recently reading an old piece of mine, and I don't know, I began from somewhere talking about, it was actually given to us in an MUN to write about some religion, a poem on religion. So I began by writing a poem on religion, and I somehow ended up writing about equality. And that is something which I recently I was going through my poem and I read it, and that is something that I've realized that I've grown out of it. I can now manage my thoughts, and I can just stick to that one particular topic and write one something on it without deviating too much. So yeah, that's what I'd like to say about my journey.
You've grown out of it. That's the catchphrase that I got out of it. Yes, it's a journey. You grow out of things, child, isn't it? You have matured. Whatever you write now, after some time, maybe you'll grow out of that also. That is development, right?
What you're calling scattered thoughts today, Pramita, were, the refined and the most, the most that could come out of a child of that age. So your ability to have even those scattered thoughts then has made you what you are today.
Yes, yes.
A lot of people do not even have those scattered thoughts. So it is essential that you have scattered thoughts. It is essential that you have thoughts in the first place.
Everything, it's a bouquet of thoughts that comes in.
So you were able to put them together. Whether you call them scattered thoughts, I'll still say they were the most
They
refined
actually, yeah.
All those scattered thoughts were actually seeds. And all those seeds were, when put together, germinated into something so
How
beautiful.
beautiful. How beautiful, ma'am. They were seeds. The thoughts were seeds.
Ma'am, if you have 5 minutes, you can recite it and then leave.
Okay. मेरी कविता का शीर्षक है रावण समझा था जीत हुई. ओके. रावण समझा था जीत हुई. रावण समझा था जीत हुई सीता हरण के पश्चात. रावण समझा था जीत हुई सीता हरण के पश्चात. ना समझ ये ना जान सका हार की थी वो शुरुआत. छोटी छोटी जीते अक्सर, छोटी छोटी जीते अक्सर या पुष्ट करती है अहंकार. छोटी छोटी जीते अक्सर या पुष्ट करती है अहंकार, या फिर इच्छा की ज्वाला की बन जाती है स्वयं समिधा. So what happens when we have small little wins, like we won an argument or something? What do these small winnings do? Either they increase our ego, or else they put fuel into our desires. फिर हम क्या करें? So there are 3 things that I felt we could do. चैतन्य तत्व का अन्वेषण कर. We were talking about consciousness. So Chaitanya is that, Chetana is that consciousness. चैतन्य तत्व का अन्वेषण कर, सतत उसका ध्यान करें. चैतन्य तत्व का अन्वेषण कर, सतत उसका ध्यान करें. अमृत के इस प्याले से प्रतिपल रस का पान करें. चैतन्य तत्व का अन्वेषण कर, सतत उसका ध्यान करें. अमृत के इस प्याले से प्रतिपल रस का पान करें. फिर क्या करें? विवेक प्रखर करें ऐसा. विवेक प्रखर करें ऐसा जो गर्जना अहम की पहचान सके. विवेक प्रखर करें ऐसा जो गर्जना अहम की पहचान सके. इस उद्दंड अभिमानी राक्षस की धड़ से गर्दन को काट सके. Only when our vivek is so powerful कि वो अहम की गर्दन को finished. और क्या करें? संकल्प शक्ति दृढ़ करें ऐसे, विल पावर. संकल्प शक्ति दृढ़ करें ऐसे कि इंद्रियां बलवान बने. संकल्प शक्ति दृढ़ करें ऐसे कि इंद्रियां बलवान बने. इच्छा ज्वाला की समिधा न बन, स्वराज का स्वप्न स्वीकार करें. इच्छा ज्वाला की समिधा न बन. इच्छा की जो ज्वाला होती है उसमें समिधा न डालते जाएं. बाय fulfilling our desires, स्वराज का स्वप्न साकार करें. तेरी थी, तेरी हूं, तेरी ही रहूंगी हे प्रभु. जड़ चेतन में प्रियतम तेरे दर्शन की है आरज़ू, विवेक की अंजलि चढ़ा दर्शन करूंगी रूबरू. Thank you.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Not as good as what the children write, but yes, yeah.
They'll surely be inspired by your writing.
No doubt.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Lavanya, I think you're the last speaker left, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am. I have been completely blown away with what I have been hearing for the past 1.5 hours. I thought I had gathered all my thoughts. I would be prepared what to speak, but now I'm not really sure. So I started writing young, and I think somehow my reading and my writing journey began together. The first book I ever read was The Magic Faraway Tree, which was a fiction book and by Edith Britton, and it just made me feel very happy that there's a magic tree with goodies and stuff in it, and children explore it. The life is adventurous and stuff. I read that book for over 10 times, and my sister got completely angry with me that I should read actual books also since I was getting older. Then I read the book Wonder, and that's when I think I started thinking about things. To be honest, it's about a child who has a medical condition due to which he looks different from other people, quite different, and it's about how he survives through his middle school years. So I read that book, and it made me think about things. And as I started reading, it started widening my horizon about things, and that is when I started writing. For me, writing has it was Sanvi ji pointed out that it's an escape for her. I think it's somewhat similar for me because all the teachers who are present here who have taught me or know me well, and all my friends present here, they know I am a very emotional person. I am a very, very emotional person. Too emotional, I guess, which should not be there, but then I am. Can't change that. So whenever I have these outbursts of emotion, I think the only place my emotions uh, lead me to is the pen and the paper, and I start writing. It's the only release, I think. It's one of the most important releases in my life. Yesterday we had a session, an informal session where Yadidi also talked about lyrics, song lyrics that inspire her to write. So I think that is also a very good inspiration for me as well. Then I have picked up diary writing ever since I was in class 6th. So that also quite changed me. I don't know if people say that it does not make a difference at all, but recently I was very down on one of these days of the lockdown, and I picked the diary up and I started flipping through the pages, and I realized that what kind of worries I used to have that at that time, because ma'am said that people can write when they're in a very peaceful state of mind or when they're very sad. I cannot write in a peaceful state of mind. When I am in a peaceful state of mind, I just want to be in that state. I do not try to write it down somewhere. I usually write when I am messed up in my mind. Everything is going here and there, homework pending. I think I have watched too much television and things, and I think I should not have done that. So when I'm in that state of mind and everything feels lost and something like that, then I start writing, and that's how I filled 2 diaries. And when I read them recently, I realized what kind of a person I was and how I have gradually skimmed through the problems that I had at that time, and I have realized that actually they were not that big. They are not that big. So diary writing is something that has helped me. Moreover, one more thing that has given me inspiration for writing are the wholesome conversations I have with my friends on WhatsApp. I chat a lot with all my friends. I'm only on WhatsApp, but I chat a lot with the people. So, like Pramita is here, Mangalya is here. I have very wholesome conversations with all of them. I keep asking them questions about myself, how I have evolved, and we discuss these kind of things. Especially with Mangalya, I discuss these things a lot, and she has helped me a lot with this. She's really helped me. So that's my writing journey. And one thing I really like about writing is that you don't necessarily have to be somebody at a high position, or somebody very inspirational to write something down. When you write, it can be anything. You can make your stories anyway. You can design your own world. That's kind of a release for me, so I feel really happy. It's one of the most cherished activities of my life, and I plan to do it all throughout my life. And I'm really thankful to all the teachers. I've been in Seth ma'am and Archana ma'am's activity of creative writing, and I got to experience such different varieties of things. I have written the autobiography of a balloon in that activity. All year they let us experiment with everything, and plus the teaching staff of Jaipuria, whether it's Pooja ma'am, Archana ma'am, Hindi teacher Smriti ma'am, Kiran ma'am, and no one has ever told me that they don't want to read what I have written. Every time I've gone to them, they've checked it. They have said it's beautiful. They have said make this change, and I made it. They have never refused help. So that is why I felt that I could approach them, and that's how I think I've matured as a writer. Although people here have written beautiful stuff, so I don't know where to place myself as a writer, but I feel really happy about my writing. That's all about my
Like
journey.
to recite something that you've written, Lavanya? Each one of you, if you recite something, nice.
Ma'am, I have two things, ma'am. Which one do you want to listen to, ma'am? I have written one thing in the GK MEN Jaman last year. So it was a piece related to farmers. So Lok Sabha was the agricultural committee that time. So I wrote something on farmers, and then I have recently competition where I wrote an essay from the perspective of a trans person. So whichever one you suggest,
It's
ma'am.
your choice. It's your choice. Which one you like better? Which one do you think you would like to recite?
We've read one piece. Tiwari ma'am. The trans gender piece. We've read that.
Oh yes, yes.
Yes, it's
The other
also
one.
part of the current chronicle. Yes.
Sure. Ma'am, so this was the article I wrote in the for the article I was supposed to write in the press committee. So it goes. It's an open letter. Dear ungrateful society, I am writing this letter to you to thank you for the concern and attention you have given to me. It is day 46 in this scorching heat, and the wind that blows brings with it scent of disappointment and smell of the sweat of a farmer. The cracks in my field grow wider and wider, but the clouds shed no tears to feed them. Every once in a while, I ask myself, who did it and who bears the consequence? You sit in comfort while we sit in silence. You cut the trees which help bring rain while we face the rainless winds. You mourn the dying justice of the country, but you do not mourn for those who give you grains. You, my dear future revolutionists who condemn wars, you are the one who sacrifice us in the battle to win. My boy stands on my wounded field, his ribs visible under his body, caked with dust and dirt, while my wife stands with the bare neck where once a golden chain was born. Drop by drop, ounce by ounce, our sweat and tears were not sufficient. Our blood would not be sufficient either. If what is happening continues to happen, then the crack between you and me will grow bigger and bigger until it will engulf us. Now continue sitting in your comfy homes, continue living your high profile life and sipping cups of tea while another widow and another orphan burn in the fire of the burning fire of yet another farmer. Yours gratefully, for the last time, the rich owner of a barren land.
Very beautiful. Yes,
Lavanya,
very beautiful. Very nice.
Amazing, Lavanya. Very.
Ma'am, this is not a very long poem, but it's something that I felt really like, this was written because I kind of had stemmed from something I'd read in a novel about people not really being trustworthy in the end. and how when that's the most hurtful thing that's ever experienced is when a friend turns out to be a foe. Even a foe is not that dangerous to you if you know that that person is a foe. And but if a friend turns out to be an enemy, it hurts the most. So this poem was written about it, and it's based on a tree and walking on a lonely road. So the tree is supposed to be a companion in the poem, and it's metaphorical for the people we meet in life. So it's not very long, and it's definitely nowhere near the poems I've just heard, which have beautiful imagery and very vibrant words, but I would love to share it. Stranded on a road with a single tree. Promise I won't be bored if you just walk with me. Be a companion that would not need me to say, just walk by my side with its leaves this way. Be a friend, whether in need or not, even if we end, if it means I won't rot. Be an enemy, not under pretense. Abandon me in a storm, but not fake air. Be a somebody without a dagger concealed, so that I won't be a nobody born to die in defeat. So, ma'am, it's not very long, but it had been something impulsive and written out of something that I'd felt at that moment.
But it's beautiful. So you felt something at that moment. Did it help you to come out of it?
Ma'am, it surely did. It because it actually, even if you write pessimistic, it ends up giving you hope that there's something positive and optimistic at the other end of it. So it does help you bring yourself out of something that you're experiencing at a particular moment.
And do you feel after a while, after some time, I mean, when you've written this, then after some time, well, you wrote because you felt, two friends have fallen apart or whatever. Okay. Somebody betrayed, whatever the sentiment was. And after writing and after some time, do you feel it's not, it's not that important, and the relation can easily be mended?
Yes, ma'am, it definitely
and you can let it go. You can let that incident go because that was just one incident which happened, or maybe 2 or 3 or a couple of incidents, and that's okay. And I go back.
Yes, ma'am, it definitely is. It definitely does help at times.
Well, if it does help, then I must say then the poetry is really going to uplift you or your piece of writing, because that's what life is about. Let go and keep on moving. You will gradually feel that, well, at some point, if you're angry with someone, it is only for those particular moments or for that period of time. And eventually, things flow, and you flow with the flow because you've let your emotions go by the side, and you are strong enough to handle the situation, plus strong enough to mend that relation. And once you mend that relation, you feel nice inside.
Ma'am, that is definitely true. And poetry also does help you introspect on what you lose if you don't take that step further. So, because when you're writing about something, you don't only reminisce the bad things that have happened, but also all the good things that you relate with it. So it definitely makes you take that step and realize what you will be missing out on. Absolutely. If you let that go.
So beautiful. So that is what transformation is.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you recite one of your poems?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I really like this one piece that I wrote for the creative writing that was held in, I guess, July. And I don't know, we had been given an hour to write. And for the first 40 minutes, I was only fussing because I could not find a place to write. So I was really, really mad at my sister, and I was because of you, I'm not able to write anything. But then in the last 20 minutes, I wrote this, and I think I've never been able to put my thoughts into words better. So it's called Choice. Traversing this path called life, we have chanced upon innumerable doors. On some occasions, they are all alone, and on others, there are more. The law says we have to enter it, but fear dwells in our mind, for the door sure is a transition from the unwoven to the intertwined. The decision should be quick as we pick the best, listening closely to our instinct, but it's not as effortless because the outcome can be remarkably distinct. Distinct from what we expected, distinct from what is desired. Only once you step through a door do you realize whether the destiny was with you or did it conspire. Conspire to change your path, which leads to another location. A change of path means a change of life, and hence the hesitation. Hesitation to make a choice, to know whether you're wrong or right, to decide which door is the best for you when there are a great deal of doors in sight. But to choose one is obligatory, for our journeys cannot cease midway. Just make your best bet, have faith in the divine, and you will never be astray.
This is so insightful and so deep. Beautiful.
Ma'am, this is Manya's style, you know, short, crisp, brief, and bang on target. I mean, your selection of words, each word is has some contribution to your line. I mean, there is no loose word out there in her poems. I have observed this about Manya's poems.
So you analyze it as an English teacher, but I will just say that your view of life is so clear.
Yes.
There is so much clarity in
Yes,
your
ma'am,
opinion
yes.
of life. This is what I understand from it. I am not
No,
analyzing.
I do understand this, but I have observed her writings all through these years, and today I'm talking about her style of writing. It's that way she writes.
Yeah.
Very nice. All of us are unique, and this is her speciality. This is her uniqueness, Manya's.
Riya, do you wish to read yours? You may have written something.
Yes, ma'am. So, like I was saying earlier, this is another poem that I wrote because I thought that I need to write a poem for the Chronicle because everything that I had submitted right up to then had been prose. So this poem is called The Night, and it's basically about how you cannot sleep at night because you've got this never-ending stream of thoughts, and you've got visions, and you've got sounds, and you've got everything that are meant for the day because the night is meant for sleep, and that's the thing that does not come to you. But you cannot separate yourself from them because you're as much a part of them as they are a part of you. And then you get this feeling of rush because you got so less, such less hours to sleep, but you cannot bring yourself to sleep. And when sleep does come, you do not know when it comes. And even though you do hate the night, you can't help but miss it during the day because that night gives you a time to process your own thoughts. And even though, again, night is not meant for that. So starting with it. The gold of the sky is now a dark blue. Apollo's chariots homewards flew. Crickets chirp and cheer on our balcony. The birds they replaced in monotony cues. A silver orb hangs from the clouds. The silence is maddening, the voices are loud. The limitless dome is only limited, it seems. The colors hide under a dark grey shroud. My eyes are open, yet I dream. My mind is alight with thoughtful streams. I lie on my back, seeing all but light. My eyelids are closed, all I hear is a scream. The hourglass runs, I run out of time. The sand won't stop sheathing the glass and grime. The clock is ticking, it's a comforting noise. My vigilance fades away as if it was sublime. When I wake up the next morning, I forget what it was like to live in threat. The threat of your own thoughts, your own self. But when the night comes, I seldom fret.
Very beautiful, Riya. Even before you began, I thought you had already started speaking your piece. The introduction was lengthy.
Ma'am, actually, that introduction was for the girl who was making the artwork for my chronicle. So I wrote that all down, and then I came to terms with it because I think when I write about something, then only I can process something.
Beautiful.
That's true.
Very beautiful.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
This chronicle journey is a memorable one for me. The way we have put it up, I mean, it was a major challenge for us, but we have managed. Yes.
Just something I'd like to share, since you all are poets, and what I've understood basically is you all feel emotions very strongly, whether you put them in poetry or not. But this is something I've learned personally through life, and I don't leave an opportunity to share with all those who can benefit. I read this somewhere. Grow through what you go through. You all may have read it, or I don't know if you read it or not. Grow through what you go through. And again, a personal belief is everything that happens in your life, every every performance that you do, every mistake that you make, every achievement that you win, should be a learning lesson. There is always something that you learn from everything that you do at every moment of your time in life. So as long as that learning is happening, your journey is going to continue in a very, very positive direction. The moment you stop learning is when, you'll reach a point of stagnation. You'll reach a point where you will stop growing I'd say you'd stop evolving as a human being. So just learn every time you come across a mistake, every time, even when you achieve something, learn to, being emotional is a very, very good feeling. I'm very emotional myself, as Lavanya said earlier, and it's what makes you human. But remember every emotion that you experience, whether it's happiness or it's sadness, it's meant to leave you with a lesson. It's meant to help you become the person that you are going to eventually become, grow in life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pooja ma'am.
So, ma'am, we were having this army week or the year where we were celebrating our army, our Indian army. And that's when I guess during the activity time, Asna ma'am asked us to write a poem or a story or anything on our army. And that's when I wrote this. So the title of my poem is I Stood and Watched. I stood and I watched as a mother cried when she had heard that her son soon had died. He didn't die because he was sick, or he didn't die because he was in a wreck. He died doing what he felt was right. I had watched a father try to hold back his tears. His son had lived only a scant 22 years. His son had died 9,000 miles away. And what was there left for a father to say? He got down on his knees and said a prayer. His brave son known, his father did care. I stood and watched as the little girl cried. She didn't understand why her brother had passed away, why he never again was there again on the lawn to play. Looking at the little girl's tears, I knew that her brother was martyred for you and me.
It is based on friendship. Okay, so title is You Will Remember. One day you will remember all memories pink and grey, and someday you will remember me when I'll be far away. And all of those days buried in the faint and dark past. Oh, why we ever hurried when time went already so fast. Alas, and someday you will remember those raindrops clean and fair, our torn and aged letters, those seasons crystal clear, when hand in hand we used to scurry along the roads in a hurry, and as we made our way, I hesitatingly used to say, I have no questions for any he or she. Take all of our friends apart. But will you really remember me? You used to just give me a smile, and I would await an answer for a while. But you would just run away from me and quickly say goodbye. Yes, that was your last reply. But today, as you cry, with a teardrop slipping from your eye, I know you are deeply sorry as to why did you ever said goodbye. Now I am not here, and I'll never be. But my dear, dear, and very loving friend, I am happy because now you remember me. Thank you.
Great. So, Sanvi, perhaps that's for your friend, for whom you wrote when you were sad. Okay. All right. Yes.
I wrote this when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
It is based on friendship and loss of and all of that. We can also recite. Actually, we can have you heard about Bikram Seth? He writes poetry in which he recites in which he narrates a story. And my brother said to me once, you should also do something like that because I really love Bikram Seth, but you write strange poems. I don't understand them. So I wrote one this March. But the problem is I got indecisive because that's a long poem because that's about a story. So that's a bit long. So I got indecisive whether I should recite it or not.
How long is it?
If you agree or not.
So how long is it? 5 minutes, 7 minutes? That depends on the house, all the people here, or you can read a part of it.
If everyone agrees, only then will I recite.
Depends. I have ample time. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. It is 7 pages long, but it is a story, and I think it won't get monotonous, and I love this one. It is about that normal story, that fable, tortoise and the rabbit. It is about that, but I have written it in a different way. So should I start now? Okay, thank you. So the title is The Race of Patience. The green grass glowed under his feet as the rabbits scampered on. The sun smiled down on a day so sweet, a story to be born. Proud and calm did lie the lake, with a plethora of lives bright, and on its banks the bunny took a break, to rest his restive body white. The black ants panicked when he came, as the sandy home fell apart. Sat the rabbit, untouched by shame, pride playing its nasty part. Gently stilled away the waters, as the turtle floated out. Wild flowers laughed like happy daughters, as the breezes played about. Spring's pure joy bathed the forest, an ambience so fine. The rabbit ran to end its rest, with an idea not benign. Slow, little friend, listen to me, he cheerfully said to the turtle. I am delighted beyond words to see you after much time, friend turtle. I reckon the years have made you strong and brighter in spirits. Surely experiences in a period so long have broken some weaknesses to bits. In past I used to pity you and exclude you from my games, but now neglect reduces to sawdust and burns in flames. The turtle grew askance at the rabbit's politeness. Wise words rang on this chance. Beware of the cunning one's kindness. On and on the rabbit babbled. The turtle couldn't stop him. Quick Bunny revealed when diplomacy dwindled. Friend, will you fulfill a whim? Though quite sure this challenge you won't like to face, and knowing for certain you won't be willing, I ask you about a kilometer race, with this assurance that my friendliness is brimming. Knowing the offense as it came, the turtle nevertheless smiled, and instead of withdrawing with shame, he agreed with the delight of a child. The rabbit's well-planned laughter got stifled by this acceptance. Fire doesn't vanish for a drop of water, so he spoke with the mask of benevolence. What fortune must mine be, my wise little friend? You trifle to agree with me. How gracefully to my wishes do you tend? The following day arrived swiftly. The spectators all sat ready. Many laughed, few cried indignantly. Unfair is this game of inequality. The turtle stood unruffled, the rabbit's pride impure. The audience was baffled. What race is of a result too sure? Ducks and swans wished to be entertained. With mirth birds came to sing. Crowded monkeys so their tummies be pained. The ruler came, the Lion King. From arching branches, snakes hung down. Fish constantly sprang out of water. Happily stood huge bear herds brown. Near the king sat a fox with his daughter. Sighing turtles sat far from the sight, agreed with this humiliating show. The Lion King sat cheerful, quiet, knowing what no one else did know. With a whistle of 10 larks, the race began. The turtle took on its burdensome body. Like stormy winds, the rabbit ran. The result did seem already ready. An eagle waited on the finishing line, with flags of each contestant, to carry the winner's flag to the starting line and immediately make the spectators content. This duty had little pains in her brain, for there was not a need to fade. But time proved all her hopes in vain, for the winner did come there quite late. The rabbit soon covered up half the way, the turtle far out of sight. Enjoying the glorious beauty of the day, it beheld a field of carrots bright, the temptation of a delicious rest, and the victory too easy caused him to eat plenty with zest. So he began to feel quite sleepy. Fool turtle won't any soon come by. He mused under a shady tree. Who knows when he may stop and cry, give up, and go home regretfully? Finishing what you start is honor, regardless of the expectant result. Recalled the turtle the words of his father, whilst he moved with a shield to insult. The animals around were sarcastic. The trees overflowed with woe. But the turtle's slow feet, ecstatic, trudged on without sorrow. The rabbits mocked the turtle's family, which answered with lonely silence. One rabbit interrupted delightedly. Stop, friends. These are creatures of patience. They laughed and laughed uproariously. Young turtles boiled in their own blood. The king then roared ferociously, so the bunnies altogether hushed. The sunset showed on the horizon. The eagle hadn't come yet. The humor of the forest, long gone and done. With weight, the animals had become upset. An accident has occurred in the way. The rumor spread like fire. For hours flew past and all the day, and unfulfilled yet the spectators' desire. Maybe the eagle forgot his duty. A foolish young monkey cried, Stop amusing us with your stupidity. A wise old owl replied. Squirrels lit torches with wood sticks dry. The moon began to appear. Enthusiasm of many had given out its cry, giving way to ill doubts and fear. So when the eagle's yell was finally heard, her arrival was heartily embraced. Hope sprang there like an alerted bird. 100 eyes to the sky were raised. And lo, the turtle's flag waved in sharp claws like a newborn banana leaf. The drowning hearts of a family was saved, and the forest startled in disbelief. The Lion King saw it as an expectant success. The rest of all dumbfounded. The rabbits fell looted of archness. A winner so slow and grounded. The rabbit slept near the victory. The turtle reached me meanwhile, explained the eagle with brevity, as the Lion King cracked a smile. So that very fateful day of spring taught the jungle a word of lessons. The story among us still dwelling is proof of the learner's visions, the focus to work and the courage to face, the folly of taking things for granted, the integrity to participate with grace, regardless of an outcome calculated, the evil of laughing at others, the pin that comes for ego balloons, the miracle that comes for self-winners, God's unexpected shower of boons. Wise turtle or fast rabbit, one virtue not serves forever. If both be used at our own wit, lost will no wealth be ever. Thank you. Sorry for such a long poem. I know it was very long, but
the way you've ended it.
Thank you so much for listening.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And how could you put it? How many days did you take to write it?
I took 3 days to write.
But there's such a continuous
Very nice.
thoughts, and initially when you're describing the jungle, so much imagery there, you can easily you can start thinking about it. Beautiful, very nicely.
Very
Thank you
nice.
so much, Sam.
Very
Thank you
nice.
so much, everyone, for listening. So peace.
Usually when you have to put a story into this kind of poetry, I don't know, I feel when you read something and then you start writing, then your own thoughts are blocked. They are basically because you keep thinking about what you've read, but towards the end you've written it completely, on your own, everything, and beautifully written. And this is not easy.
So this is what I wrote during the lockdown. I was fortunate enough to, in the first half of lockdown, to be in Delhi. Like we lived like a whole big joint family with 2 of my uncles and my own family living together. So it was really good. And that was the time that I got to observe a lot of women around me, my aunts, my mother, my own sisters. That was this time where I got to observe everybody. And fortunately, that time was around when we have this little group, the Redemption of Humanity. We used to have it. That was the time when it was having some issues within itself. It was based on the concept of feminism, and more about that, elaborating towards it. So actually, I began writing like documenting my writing when my grandfather told me that "Acha to likhti hu, why do you just tear them off?" Uh, so from that, I used to learn that okay. And he used to always tell me stories with defining age groups. Like when I was this, when I was that age, I used to do that. So that's how this poem evolved, and it speaks about what a woman life has been facing. Not just actually it is a culmination of all the 8 women I was with, all the 8 women. I named it Always Been Pink. When I was 7, walls in my room were painted pink, only for me to grow up and think. Pink wasn't ever really my favorite color, but my parents never asked me. Maybe it was just pink available there. Or maybe they didn't care, because maybe that's how it has always been for years. When I turned 16, my brother told me that the city isn't safe for me, but I realized the city never scared him. Maybe fear was just not his thing, because maybe that's how it has always been. When I was 20, the excitement of my coming job thrilled me, but mother was always scared about how might the atmosphere be. Maybe I was the only victim of this one, because I saw my friend too excited, and so were his guardian. Maybe I was weak, or maybe that's how it has always been. When I was 24, some growth in my field I wished to brood, but was made to be in the kitchen, learning how to cook food. While brother studied till he went abroad, and I was left as if a waitress, asking him, "Would you like some corns?" Maybe he was my superiority, or maybe just bright, and I was too futile to reach that height. When I turned 27, I was married to someone unknown. He played with my skin whenever he felt so. Sometimes he apologized in the morning for his drunk deeds at night. I just always stood there, accepting his plights. Maybe he's stronger, that's what I've seen, because maybe that's how it has always been. When I was 30, I still refused to have a child. But my own family started cursing me, believing I was infertile. Maybe I was irresponsible. Maybe they were right. Or maybe having my own choices just wasn't right. I definitely wasn't keen, but maybe that's how it has always been. When I turned 32, I had my first daughter child. Everyone congratulated, but thought a girl was too mild. No one asked about, everyone was happy and displayed care. No one asked about the pain I bear. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe my daughter was not fine. They had more experience seeing, because that's how it has always been. I am now 45, accepted the patriarchy, accepted my fate. I have nothing to ask from life and nothing to hate. But my daughter believes she can make the world learn. As silence she leaves, thinking to make this society learn. I don't know why she's like that, or what she even thinks. I'll deal with this now and paint her room's wall pink. Thank you. Archana, I'm saying that I have been questioning a lot. This actually, when I had that informal session,
my eyes at this one.
I'm really grateful for that. If you could sense what it is.
So, Ria, you have a partner in Advika.
Definitely, ma'am. Ma'am, I was thinking exactly that while she was reciting her poem.
Yeah. Very, very.
I even chose to present this today because, firstly, to present this was the opportunity given to me by my class teacher, Kanchana ma'am. And she asked me to be a part of the LU event, Sanskriti, poetry recitation. And coincidentally, it happened today. Okay. And I just completed that event. I even called Ria ki I'll be joining. Maybe I'll join a bit late if it takes longer. So I just presented this, called ma'am, and she said, "All right, you did very good. Don't worry. Just let me know when the results come." I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And then I joined this, and I see all of them. Most of us are mostly we all are girls and females. Yeah, and we had a little discussion over feminism too. So I decided that this should be a piece I should be reciting. And sharing this really makes me feel lighter because all these 8 portions that I have written over the age groups were actually in my own family. I've seen those happening inside me, so that's what culminated to this.
Yeah, so great, you know. I'm
And,
glad you wrote it, and so glad that you recited it. And in fact, that drew my attention to this. Do boys not write poetry in our school?
I was just going to say that for a really very long time, ma'am. Now that we're all women over here, there are only girls who are reciting. There are only girls who are writing. Are we looking at some sort of feminism? Ria, maybe you can take it up from here.
No, but
Sure,
that's
ma'am.
yeah.
Actually, writing is regarded as a soft skill,
Yes.
along with things like cooking, along with I don't know, teaching.
Maybe
All
dancing
of
as
these,
well.
yeah,
Sometimes.
dancing, singing, all of these regarded as soft skills. In which, if males are there, then they're regarded as, oh my God, he does this too.
That's too girly.
That's too girly. And if you're good at it, then you're appreciated, of course. But
I wish he were here. Krishna would beg to disagree, I think.
Krishna writes in Hindi. Yeah, he does.
But
he does, right? Harshnath Jha, he also writes.
They
Today
do write, yeah.
They recited their poetry in Hindi, and that Lavanya is there. She was there too.
Just a small request. Sanya actually had to leave because of network issues. So she sent me a very small audio of 2 minutes to sum up what she wanted to say. If Sir could play it for everyone.
I'm really intimidated by all the inspiring poets and writers I shared today's platform with. And one reason for this intimidation is also because I have just been born as a poet. And I literally say this because it has probably just been 1 or 2 months since I wrote my first poem. And so I think my journey as a poet has just begun. I only have 2 poems to my credit. And I think still my aim for today was fulfilled because I have been really inspired by all the people I heard today, their aims that I explored through creative writing. And I think it has also helped me shape my aim that I wish to fulfill through this creative writing, whether it be through poetry or by story writing. And that is giving voice to different perspectives, voice to those voices which are unheard in the society. I think that is the kind of thought that finds expression in my poetry. I wrote a poem as an argument between life and death. I wrote a poem from the perspective of an Indian Air Force peace cap in the Kargil War. So yes, I just wanted to share my little 2-month-old journey with all the esteemed guests, and thank you so much. I hope that I also grow up as a poet, as a creative writer, like many other people here. Thank you once again.
In the Hindi poetry, you read it for Sonakshi, and here you are bringing this for Sanya. Very, very enjoyable, children. I don't know. It was, you people have been talking of your random thoughts and then poetry and random thoughts in poetry. But trust me, my thoughts were really random when I got into this. And I thought maybe, I want to know my children a little more. And I'm so grateful to all the teachers and all the children for coming together and giving that direction to my thoughts, which were really random. Which were actually random when I started. In fact,
I did not know it's going to be such an enriching experience, actually. Because it's something that it has taken me by surprise. I mean, yes, as I use it, I use this phrase while inviting the teachers a brainstorming session. It's way beyond that. It's way beyond that. Not only brain, it's a heart, it's the sentiments. Everything is disturbed at this moment. And thank you, girls.
So mine is not disturbed. It's overjoyed.
Overwhelmed, actually. I'm overwhelmed.